Good morning. My name is Jenny Wingrovius. I am the president here at MUUC. My pronoun are she, her, and hers, and I am your worship host today. We are a church of open, I can't even read today, I apologize, open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. All who share our values are welcome here with us. So today we continue our experiment with interactive all ages services known as Fun Church. So we'll have a shorter than usual worship time, then move into an interactive activity. Our theme for the month is justice and equity, and today we talk about the right to vote. So I want to thank our helpers this morning. We have greeter Garen Boyd, we have usher Wendy Masternardi, our coffee hosts are Michelle DeVoe and Paul Belfonte, and our guest pianist is Joe Mulholland. So thank you, Joe. Oh, the coffee host is switched. Who's our new coffee host? Oh, Terry. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. All right. Apologies. All right, so let's welcome everyone to worship, and let's just wave and say hi to our beloved community and wave to our folks on Zoom. Hello, everyone. All right, it's so nice to see folks here and folks on Zoom. So now we will light the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, the flaming chalice. And here to light ours this morning and lead us in our covenant is board member Garen Boyd.
Good morning. My name is Garen Boyd, and I serve as Director at Large and the MUUC Board. Please stand, rise as you are willing and able, and join me on the covenant, the words for which are printed on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
All right, please remain standing and join us for our opening hymn, which is Love Will Guide Us. The lyrics will be up on the screen, or it's number 131 in the gray hymnal.
Before I read our story for all ages, I want to say that at the activity tables at Following Church, Zora and Scarlett will be passing out 3 fun votes that we hope you will answer, and then they will collect them and tally them up. So the story today is Lillian's right to vote. And Lillian is based on a real woman who, when she was 100, voted for Obama. A very old woman stands at the bottom of a very steep hill. It's voting day. She is America, and by God, she is going to vote. Lillian is her name. It's a long haul up that steep hill. It's a long haul when you've been alive for 100 years. It's a long haul when you've lived the life that Lillian has lived and walked so far in her shoes. When Lillian looks up, it's more than a blue sky that she sees history. Lillian sees her great-great-grandparents, Elijah and Sarah. They are standing side by side on an auction block. Sarah is holding their baby Edmund. They are being sold as slaves in front of this very same Alabama courthouse where rich white men and no one else is allowed to vote. Lillian starts her slow climb. Though the sun shines brightly, Lillian sees a dark time from years past. She sees her great-grandfather Edmund, now grown. He is ordered by another man, forced to pick cotton from daybreak to nightfall, right here in this country, where it is written that all men are created equal. He sure doesn't have the right to vote. In fact, he doesn't have the right to do much of anything until after the Civil War, which will end slavery. As Lillian inches up the hill, past one neighbor's house and the next, she sees her great-grandpa Edmund on his way to vote for the very first time, thanks to a law that was passed in 1870. The law was the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that American citizens' right to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. Even though the law doesn't allow women to vote, great-grandma Ida is there with her husband, and Lillian can feel their dignity, their pride, as they enter that courthouse for the very first time. But as Lillian continues and the hill gets steeper, oh my, that hill is steep, she sees what happens just 20 years later, right here in her own Alabama. There's her grandpa Isaac at the courthouse, being charged a poll tax, a tax that he doesn't have the money to pay. So much for that 15th Amendment, so much for Grandpa Isaac's right to vote. Lillian pauses to catch her breath, hearing now the voice of her Uncle Levi. He is telling about those tests that he was forced to take when he tried to vote, and about the sneer on the register's vote when he asked, "So how many bubbles in a bar of soap?" Her uncle's lips tight as he recalls being asked to name all 67 judges in the state of Alabama. And he was turned away when he was unable to answer those questions. As Lillian pushes on, struggling to keep her balance, she sees a brave girl standing next to her mother and father as they register to vote. The year is 1920. And the 19th Amendment has just passed, a law allowing women to vote. The girl is Lillian herself, with her mama and her papa. They are being chased away by an angry mob. Oh, there's Mr. Bentley, the barber, and Mr. McCroy, who owns the ice cream shop. She feels the firm grip of her mother's hand as they run through the streets and go back home. And though today the birds are singing and people are smiling, Lillian sees in vivid orange and brilliant red the cross burning on the lawn of her childhood home. It's set aflame by the same angry mob just because her parents wanted to vote. This is something she will always see. Lillian stops in her tracks and is unable to keep going. As she stands there, she sees herself trying to register to vote for the very first time. She sees the blank piece of paper on which she must write down a section of the U.S. Constitution, word for word. As if it's being and as she tries to do it, she hears the registrar mumbling. This was not a test that she could pass. No one could. On her route, she sees a young man and asks him, "Are you going to vote?" "Yes, ma'am," he answers. "You better," she says, and she means it. For Lillian sees the funeral procession for a man named Jimmy Lee Jackson, a 26-year-old who was shot by a policeman over nothing more than taking part in a peaceful demonstration. It is March 1965. All he wanted was justice and the right to vote. Looking up to the top of the hill, Lillian wonders how she'll ever make it. It looks so far, and she is so tired. Though her feet and legs ache with 100 years of walking? What fuels her ancient body is seeing those 600 people beginning a peaceful protest march from Selma to Montgomery. People who, though they don't know it yet, will be stopped on a bridge in Selma by policemen with clubs. All they want is justice and the right to vote. At the front is future Congressman John Lewis, whose forehead will always bear the scar from when he was beaten. As long as Lillian still has a pulse, she is going to vote. So she keeps on climbing, keeps on seeing. This time, the second march from Selma. This march also ends on the bridge, in a prayer led by Martin Luther King Jr., whose dream of justice for African Americans are already famous. Wherever he went, he lifted people up with his words, and his words still lift up Lillian, who, seeing the top of the hill, is not about to stop. Footstep by footstep, she keeps on going. Just as the marchers from Selma to Montgomery keep on going through the cold and rain, finally making it all the way to Montgomery on their third march, she sees them all, Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, rabbis, priests, and 25,000 others. Lillian is there. She can still hear Reverend King asking how long they were going to have to wait for justice. She can still feel the power of his voice when he says, "Not long." As she takes those final steps to the top of the hill, Lillian can see how Reverend King was right, for she can hear the voice of President Lyndon Johnson on her TV saying to America, "Every American citizen must have an equal right to vote. There is no duty which weighs more heavily on us than the duty we have to ensure that right. All of us must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice, and we shall overcome." Before Lillian walks through the doors of the building, where you better believe she will vote, she looks up and she sees that same blue sky. This time it was brighter than any sky she had ever seen. And she also sees August 6, 1965. That was the day President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, the one law protecting all Americans' right to vote in every state and every town, the one law protecting Lillian as a full-fledged citizen of the United States. She enters the building, and as Lillian steps into the voting booth, once again she sees herself stepping into the voting booth in 1965 for the first time. And she knows full well she will not be standing here today were it not for the people who marched and the people who died for her right to vote. Lillian touches her finger to the lever, and because she is a citizen of the United States of America, protected by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Lillian pushes the lever and Lillian votes.
Every Sunday, in the center of our service, we create together a time of quiet, a moment for prayer and meditation, a chance to reconnect with our inner selves, our highest ideals, our sense of the holy, however it is we conceive it. Let's begin this time by closing our eyes and breathing deeply. Feel your feet on the floor, feel your body relaxing, sinking into your seat. Breathe. In this meditation time, first we'll join together in our centering song, then we will sit for a couple minutes of shared quiet. Then we will speak to one another of our joys and sorrows before ending the worship part of our service. Our centering song today and for the month of February is Comfort Me, which is 1002 in the Teal hymnal, and the lyrics will be on screen. Remain seated and join in as you like. Let the song guide you gently into our time of shared meditation. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. It is our tradition in worship to share with one another the milestones of our lives, our personal joys and sorrows. We speak and listen with care so that our sharing knits us together in love, in strength, in community. If you have a sorrow to share, please come up. And if you are on Zoom, please type it into the chat box now and I will read them aloud. So thank you for sharing your joy. That's wonderful, which help to connect us and remind us all of the beauty of living. So now, Wendy, if you could light one more candle, thank you so much, to shine out our thanks for all the many blessings in our lives. So this ends the worship part of our service. We'll hear a brief postlude from Joe, and then we'll move on to our activity. So this is what it'll look like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but tables are set up in Parish Hall, and then you can also go into the parlor and the library, yes? And the supper room or no supper room? I don't think we need the supper room today. So light snacks, coffee, and juice are served in Parish Hall, and then please get whatever beverage and a snackage you require, and then find a table, perhaps with some folks you haven't talked to in a while, though, you know. On the table, Zura and Scarlett, there'll be mock ballots, and then Zura and Scarlett will help collect those. And then there'll be questions about voting for the second activity. So if you need any quieter spaces, of course, you can be in the parlor or the library. So thank you so much for joining us for this part of worship. And let's enjoy this time together of chatting and reflection and fellowship.